everybody seats up front. Guys, I'm going to get started because tonight is an action-filled night for some folks. At 7 o'clock, if you're a junior or junior family that's being recognized by the board, I'm going to excuse you. Free to go. You can go to Schramm and you'll be recognized by the board. And then you'll have some cupcakes over there. Okay? But I do have a tight timeline, so I do want to get started right away. And then I will stick around even with cupcake people over there for extra questions if folks have them, okay, at the end of the night. So don't worry. My name is Jeremy Marks. I'm the Director of Counseling here. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I want to make sure you're rest assured. Some of you have gone through this process. You're well versed and you understand. This is a stressful process, but you have a very capable and supportive counseling office that is going to be with you all the way through this process. So don't think or put that pressure on yourself that you're going to do this by yourself. You're not. You're going to do this with your counselor. You're going to do this with your parents. You're going to do this with allies, friends, siblings. It's not a process that you should think, I have to do this all by myself. Utilize your resources, students, and actualize them, okay? That's how you'll mitigate against the stress. We'll talk about some other ways that you can alleviate that stress through organization, planning, and all that kind of fun stuff. But understand it is something that is going to cause stress if you don't pay attention to certain things, okay? And if you put yourself in a position where you're racing to meet deadlines or you're not utilizing the resources you have at your fingertips, okay? I love this slide. It's been up for the last 6 years that I've done this presentation because it hits the target bullseye. Really, when we talk about the future with kids, we want them to understand if you're happy, if you're chasing a passion, then you'll be fulfilled. Does it matter if you went to Stanford versus UMaine versus University of Mississippi? Not really, if you're invested in your passion. Now, some schools specialize in some things, and obviously you want to target for things that are important to you. But also understand that happiness and finding a fit with a school is really where your aim should be. Finding that it has what you want in terms of a major. Finding that it has the demographics. Finding that it has the size. And you may need to make some compromises in there, but ultimately always looking at it from a fit perspective. Where am I going to be happiest? I think we're seeing students actualize this more than ever before. Students are transferring in bigger numbers than ever before. Why? Because they're realizing that this is a value-laden decision. I'm paying money, lots of it, to attend a university. I'm going to make sure that that university is a place I want to be for 4 years. The volume has increased so much that Common App, and we'll talk about Common App tonight, has now created a transfer app. That didn't exist 2 years ago. So it's very common, guys, students, don't put this pressure on yourself also that you have to force a fit. If after your first year it's not working, transfer. It's doable. It's easier than it's ever been before. So keep this in mind. Am I happy? Is it a fit? Our goals for tonight. I want you to help you understand and support your senior and juniors. Just FYI, I think tomorrow we actually are going to call you seniors. Because you are, in all kind of roles, after the seniors are done Friday. Graduation week next week, you guys are now seniors. Okay? So start putting that in your mind. That may be very scary for some of your parents. And we'll answer some of your questions tonight. Okay? So, the agenda. I'm going to introduce our guidance team. Hopefully you know the cast of characters. We're going to work through our process and the resources. I'm going to actually pull apart the red folder and go sheet by sheet. We're going to talk about responsibilities. It is a collaborative process. Everyone has their role. We're going to talk about financial aid and scholarships. Hopefully you attended or saw the FA Night presentation by Fame Maine. That was, I think, 2 weeks ago or a week ago. If you haven't, the link is on the website. You can watch it whenever you'd like. Okay? And then finally, answering your questions. So the school counseling department. Ellen Dowd and Jess Hoppen. Our office would not work if it were not for these two individuals. They are so important. They are our front line, literally, the first people you see when you walk into the office. Those are the folks that you can get quick hit answers to very quickly. They're always there. Sometimes counselors are with a student or in a meeting. These two are always accessible. If it's a quick hit question and you think they can answer it, give it a shot. Send them an email. They have an email just like everyone else. You can find it on the staff directory or give them a call. Angie Carlson is our registrar and SAT guru. She is a person that you can use as a resource. A year ago, I think, or 2 years ago, state of Maine went away from the SAT as being the state metric with which they tested third-year cohorts. We now use NWEA for that. So that was a huge cost that the state offloaded to schools. For the first couple of years, we absorbed that cost for the entirety of the junior class to have a free SAT. We no longer can do that. So what that means for you guys, if you want to take the SAT, you're going to need to sign up for it at collegeboard.org. We'll look at that, and there's information in that folder. She's a great resource, Ms. Carlson, about the SAT, all things SAT. If you have questions about signing up, where do I go, how do I do this, she's a great resource. Carol Pelletier, Ms. P, she's a rock star. Students love her. She's amazingly connected in the community. For those of you that are looking for a school-to-work transition piece, she is a gem. Please use her services. Our counselors, Mr. Lambert, Ms. Billington, Mr. Cooper, and myself. Okay? I have a reduced caseload, but that does give me the ability to answer questions from all of you guys. All right? So if you want to, feel free to email me. Feel free to give me a ring. All right? Feel free to book an appointment with me. It's all good. I want you to get the answers you want to ensure that your process goes as smooth as possible. Okay. Your seniors are still unsure, and I'm calling you seniors because you're there. Your seniors are still unsure about what they're going to do after high school. That's okay. All right? There's some people that are in their 30s and still don't know what they want to do. It's okay. Take your time with it. Don't worry. Embrace the process. Anytime we have students, or I have a student that is looking at something that is like, this is just a mountain. I don't know if I can climb this. I always recommend just lean into it. Don't avoid. Don't pretend like it's not there. Don't get scared of it. Actually lean into it. Often I talk to students about fear. And the farther we get from it, the bigger it is. The closer we get to it, the smaller it is. Continue your research. We'll talk about some ways in which you can do that tonight. Virtual college visits, reps are starting to come back into the building slowly, all right? Miss Dowd is a great resource for that. In the fall, we will print and post the whole lineup of reps, whether they're virtual, online, whether they're in person, but you'll have that to start the school year. You can see all those dates. Guys, I can't emphasize enough. If a college that you're looking at sends a rep, attend that meeting. That is most likely going to be the person that's going to read your app. Shake their hand, look them in the eyes. How you do? Here's my face. Please remember me. Okay? It's so important to make that connection, to establish a little quasi-relationship with that individual. Northeastern University, my alma mater, received 90,000 applicants this year. 90,000. They're anticipating up over 100,000 next year. If you have some sort of interconnected relationship, some sort of face-to-face, some sort of remembrance piece there, that person, when they read your app, may say, oh, that was that student I met at Camden Hills. I had a great story, or really had a great conversation with them. Just something, a little bit of an edge. A little bit of what we call a differentiator. Demonstrated interest, we'll talk about that as well, but that is also signified by showing up for that meeting. I am really interested in attending your university. Our process starts tonight with Red Folder. Students are encouraged to meet with their counselors regularly. You will have a senior visit in the fall, and that's an hour-long interview that we use to write your rep. Please, please, please do not limit yourself, students, to that one visit. Use your counselors, starting now. Engage with conversations. What do I need to do? What can I do over the summer? How can I be proactive? Okay? Use them. Finalize recommendation and submission of application materials. We'll talk about the timeline for that. Okay? Well, we'll work with you on that when we get to deadlines that are important. School counseling department resources. So we have a ton of information, digitally as well as in print, for 2-year and 4-year colleges, gap year programs, travel abroad. Lots and lots of students are doing deferred enrollments, meaning they get in and they defer their start date to the next year. As you exit the building, take a look at the students that are hanging up in the glass. You'll see a tremendous amount of them that are taking a gap year with a college right underneath. That's what they've done. Okay, they've gotten a deferred entrance. Sometimes that's really important. Some students need a little bit more time in the cooker, right? Before they head off to college and have some really mature decisions that they need to make, living on their own, learning how to do their own laundry, all that kind of fun stuff, growing up a little bit before they spend $50,000 to attend a college. That year may be instrumental for them. It also can just be an opportunity to chase an adventure that you maybe wanted to always do, with the knowledge that I have a start date at college on the back end. I don't really recommend open-ended gap years, because they turn into gap 2 years and gap 3 years. And then that process becomes harder and harder to re-engage. I need to go to school. Why? You're making a little scratch, feel good about yourself. What do I need college for? I'm making money. Maybe you don't, but maybe you do. Because the shelf, the ceiling is going to close in on you real quick. Sometimes gap years become longer because there's a fear factor there. I'm too old now, I can't go back to school. I'm approaching, mid-20s, whatever it may be. So if you are gonna take some time, do it through a deferred entry. Naviance, okay? This is our post-secondary, I would say, planning platform. All students have access to them, okay? Your juniors have interacted with it during their advisory times. There's a tremendous amount of resources on there. It's so simple to access. They go to the waffle in their Google Docs, they click on the waffle, which is a representation of all the school apps. They scroll through the apps, they find Naviance, click on it, they're in. It's got a tremendous amount of applications that you can see. It's also where we will upload tasks such as the red folder documents. There's a scattergram. We do the senior survey through this, so students can access and see a scattergram of the last 3 years of students and schools, where they applied, what the decision was, and what their numbers were in terms of GPA and SAT. Now, you're not going to see who that student is, but at least you can see, okay, over the last 3 years, 20 people have applied to Dartmouth, 10 got in, 5 got deferred, 5 got rejected. The ones that got in, here are their scores. The ones that got rejected, here are their scores. Does that make sense for you? Why that's important? You are not competing against other students from other schools. You are actually only competing against your classmates, which sucks. But you need to know what the game is before you get into it. How am I going to do? Is my list representative of understanding that this school only lets in 1 or 2 students per year from my high school? And I know, I've talked to my friends, there's like 5 of them applying. Maybe I'm gonna move away from that school based on the information I'm seeing. So the scattergram is really helpful. It's in the college search engines page. Counselors can work with your students on this. We'll have, I'm gonna do next year in the fall, a parent night all about Naviance. I'm gonna encourage students to come. It's gonna be within the first 2 weeks of school, and we'll spend an hour plowing through this resource. Collegeboard.org offers their search engine. It's called Big Future. Some students really like that. It's free, you can access it. There's test prep on there through Kaplan as well as on Naviance. Kaplan offers free test prep for SAT as well. Collegeboard.org is a great site to get familiar with. Why? It has resources like Big Future. That's how you'll send your SAT scores to your colleges. We as an institution cannot do that. They don't want to see it from us. We're a third party, we're a tertiary party. They want it straight from the College Board. Okay, so you can go home tonight, log on to collegeboard.org, create your password, your ID, have that account ready to go. You'll see all your PSAT scores. If you've taken the SAT already this spring, you'll see that on there, and that's how you'll send your scores. So the red folder, it's quite literally a red folder. In February, you'll get a white folder. School colors. The white folder is all about financials and scholarships. The red folder is all about our application process. The red folder is for everyone. We do send about 70% of our senior class to 2- and 4-year schools, but that means that there's 30% of students that we are also responsible for. So there are some things in there for students that are going right into the workforce or some other avenue, maybe the military. All right, so I want to see on the left-hand side, and I think I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. I want to show you the sides of the folder, okay? So when you look at the folder, when I say left, it's when you're facing it, okay? So when I turn it, it's this side, okay? We've given you a little bit of a heads up or a table of contents similar to this in your folder so you can see which is on which side, okay? In here, the first sheet you will see is a timeline, okay? This is just helpful to understand where am I supposed to be in this process at any given time. if you see this and you're like, oh my God, okay, September, I haven't got my list together, it's now September 30th, it's okay. It's okay. It's just a guideline to suggest where you should be at any given time. Your process is going to be your process. Let it be. But this is a nice way to kind of see, am I on track? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing at this time of year? Red folder deadlines. Okay? This is an important one that I want you to understand. Deadlines are massively important in this process. There are two types of deadlines. Most commonly what you'll see is a submitted by deadline. Meaning, I have submitted my application to X university by November 1. Okay, October 31st, 11:59 p.m., boom. All right, I'm hitting send. Sent by, okay? Some schools, if they're a paper school, or some schools do still do pen and paper applications, or they have their own portal, or some other funkiness, they may say received by. That means it's in their hands. They've gotten it by that date. Very small amount. 99% of your schools are going to be submit by, okay? We ask that you pay attention to this deadline kind of configuration. Why we ask this? It is so important that your counselor has plenty of time to ensure that their recommendation is as strong as it can be. Why is this important? Well, case in point, UMaine only now requires a council recommendation. No teachers are required, no coaches are required, only the council. The council gives a holistic 50,000-foot view of the student, talks about all the things that the student is involved in, their grade point average, talks about their transcript, the clubs, the things that they did for service organizations, all that kind of fun stuff. If a school's truly going to buy into that holistic approach in evaluating students, I would think that they would use the counselor letter as a really important part of their process. If you show up at your counselor's office and say, November 14th for November 15th date, and you say, oh, by the way, I just sent you a Common App, the request for your recommendation, I'm applying, if the deadline is tomorrow, how good do you think that recommendation is going to be? Not going to be very good. We, as an institution, don't necessarily have to hit those deadlines. I haven't missed a deadline in 17 years, I don't plan to. You guys, if you miss a deadline, it's end of show. I've had students come to my office crying, Marcus, I'm so sorry, I just realized. Call the university, hey, can we submit an application right now? Sorry, no, deadline was yesterday. It's that way, guys, okay? Pay attention to the deadlines. And pay attention in particular, giving your counselor that time. So if you have a November 1, we ask 10 days, 10 working days prior. You're allowing your counselor to have that time. Hopefully you've already had conversations prior to. Okay, so we're aware, we invited us on Common App, we have plenty of time. But if you do have that, instantaneous flash, I need to get this done, maybe you're a last minute kind of person, at least give us those 10 days. Recommendation info, okay? My philosophy on recommendations is this. 2 teachers, one from a teacher that's related to the major of choice, so that you can show preparedness to be successful in that major at the next level, okay? Case in point, I want to go pre-med, I'm taking AP Bio, I need Mr. Ventel's recommendation. It's directly related to the major of choice, it comes from the highest level of study, okay, AP level. That's a targeted recommendation. I recommend that the other recommendation, especially if you're applying to a liberal arts school, is from a different domain, showing that you're not a one-trick pony. Not only am I good at math science, I'm really good in humanities, okay? a balanced perspective, especially for liberal arts schools. Now, if you're applying to an engineering school, it's specific engineering, or IT, WPI, MIT, math and science, yeah, let's get a couple of those. We don't really need to worry about, maybe it's a third recommender that you submit as an optional recommender. But let's get those math science because it's directly related to a very specific school. Okay? The process that we'll ask for you, okay, in terms of letter of recommendations, is to initiate a casual conversation with your teacher. Hey, Mr. Marks, if I were a teacher, not a counselor, I would like you to write my letter of recommendation. No problem, Johnny, I got your back. Make sure you send me the invite from Common App. What that does, it allows that student to have a conversation where the teacher is given that grace of, they may say no. And ethically, if they can't write a positive recommendation, they should say no, right? So you're not assuming anything, right? It also avoids, it's just kind of etiquette, it avoids that teacher just getting a cold send from Common App saying, the student has requested your recommendation. Well, that would have been nice to have that conversation because now I'm not really feeling like I'm a part of this process, right? Maybe it was sent 2 days before the deadline. Now you've really put a lot of pressure on me. Okay, so have that conversation, very simple. If you have it this spring, and it's from your junior year, which is a good idea because that's the full year snapshot that universities will look at, closest to your time of applying. Right? Stay away from freshman year, that was 3 years ago, they don't really care about that. Sophomore year, again, unless you're gonna have them senior year, maybe there's a comparable they can talk about, your growth trajectory. Really, junior year is the year you wanna look at for these teachers. Go to them this spring, ask for that rec, follow it up in the fall with a gentle reminder email. Hey, Mr. Marks, you remember you said you would write that rec? I'm gonna send you a Common App in this, in a day. Great. Okay? Counselors, you don't really need to worry about that. We're gonna write you a rec, okay? You don't have to ask us, but when we do summon you to the counselor's office for that senior interview, show up, okay? That's our time to sit with you for an hour and get information on your rec. This is a nice sheet. This lays out student responsibilities, okay? School responsibilities, counselors. You know exactly who's responsible for what, right? So you can see that the student is responsible for the application, makes sense. The fee, okay? Essay, SAT scores, that's you. Teachers are a letter of rec. Counselors, we're gonna write a letter of rec. We're gonna send your transcript for you. As soon as you apply, we're gonna start sending grades. Progress reports, transcripts at the 7th semester, which is the end of first semester, okay? We'll send the school profile, we'll send what's called an SSR, if it's done through paper or pen. We'll do a mid-year report, which is your 7th semester transcript, okay, with an updated GPA. So that first semester senior year is super important. And your final transcript. A little note about the final transcript, if you can remember, all the way till July 1 of next year. Inevitably, we get a flood of calls around June 15, June 16. Seniors have graduated, now they're getting emails from their various universities saying, we have not received your final transcript. No, you haven't. The school year isn't done. You're gonna get it July 1. We send out all senior transcripts before July 1 or on July 1 or right in that proximity. It's an official transcript. It's clearly stated that you graduated. That will be sent. Trust us, right? Lots of times what will happen, student will get that email, they'll panic, they won't even call the university, they'll just say, hey, I'll get on the phone. Hi, this is Jared Marks over at Camden Hills. My student received a notification that they have not received their final transcript. When I know it's been sent, can you please take a look in your files? Put me on hold, I'll listen to some great music, And they'll come back and say, you know what, it is actually in the file, thank you. Thank you. All right? Trust us. This is so very important. This is the cherry on top of the sundae. We will make sure that that final transcript gets sent to your schools. Don't worry. Resume. I think it's important that students start thinking about resumes, and we put some tips in here, assuming that professional aspect of your life. Naviance does a great job with it. They have a resume kind of platform where it's just simple questions, you pump it into fields, and all of a sudden you have a resume at the end. Okay? I think College Board does the same thing. There's some others. I think Microsoft Word actually has a template for resumes as well. It's just a good thing to start doing if you're getting to this level, right? If you're thinking about maybe doing an internship your senior year, having that resume is going to be a part of that process, okay? Who knows? This summer you may be applying for a summer job. Just FYI, because of labor shortages, don't limit yourself to flipping burgers, okay? Or waiting tables for that matter, which is very lucrative, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of jobs, summer, quasi, not traditional summer jobs that are now open because people can't find employees. So think outside the box. If there's something that you're really interested in doing, and typically would be something that someone would apply for a real job, just hit them up and see, hey, are you hiring summer workers? What's the worst thing they're gonna say? No. Best thing they can say is yes. And then you're in a summer job that you traditionally wouldn't have been able to access, and that's something that you're gonna put on your college applications, put on a resume, just a good look. There's information in here about Common App, FAQs about Common App, okay? This is how you will apply to 99% of your schools, okay? In the fall, when I do that Naviance night, I'm gonna cap it with a Common App experience, okay? So you can come in that night and see how the Common App works. It's very, very simple, okay? Go to Common App. Just do a Google search Common App. It's gonna be the first thing that pops up. It'll direct you on how to fill things out. The tip that I'll give you is this. When you select your entry date, pay attention. Okay, just don't assume the first one on is the one I'm gonna scroll down. For you guys, the entry date's gonna be fall 2023. If you select fall 2022, which is this fall, they will scrub your account this summer and everything you've done in Common App will be lost. If you select the proper entry date, it will ride through the summer. You can use your summer effectively, get ahead of the curve, get some things done, and then you'll have that account when you need it. Okay, so you can actually start that tonight if you want. A little bit about deadlines, in particular understanding testing. Okay, in the folder you'll see test dates and deadlines that you need to have registered for the test. There are late dates on there, just know. The later you apply for the test administration, guess what? You're going to be hitting some costs, okay? Common App, as I said, is easy to use. The website, the app is right there, www.commonapp.org. CSS Profile is also behind the test dates. CSS Profile, if you were at FA night, financial aid night, okay, with FAME, they talked a lot about the CSS Profile. If you're applying to schools that are what are considered 100% need met schools, or a grant school like Williams College, which I spoke about, and I want to include you guys into what Williams is doing. Williams is a phenomenal private institution in Western Mass, Williamstown, Mass, home of Bill Belichick. Pains me to say as a New Yorker. Okay, great school. They've realized, hey, we've got a significant amount of money in our endowment, like $1 billion. We are no longer going to require folks to take student loans. They are a 100% grant school, meaning when you file your FAFSA, you're going to get your expected family contribution, how much the government determines you can afford as a family. Everything above that, either the institution will help with, or you're gonna be responsible to get loans if there's a gap between what the institution gives you and what the government says you can afford. Williams says, we don't want you taking any loans. We're gonna give you all the money after your EFC. And it's gonna be all grant-based, meaning you have to pay back none of it. I hope more institutions recognize this. Bowdoin, Colby, Bates, all have billion-dollar endowments. I hope they start to understand that the price tag that they're now affixing to an education, NYU's, over $80,000 a year, is cost prohibitive to families now. And they have to help. Otherwise, students are gonna stop attending. It's just that simple. Not everyone's going to college. There is some information, not only in our post-secondary guide, which hopefully you got from your counselors, it's online as well, but there's some information in here about local career center, the Hutchinson Center, UMaine Augusta at Rockland, formerly known as URock, and then also community colleges, okay? So there's information and websites there. Financial aid resources, the last sheet on the left-hand side. On our website, okay, go to the school website, navigate to student services, hit counseling, go to the counseling landing page. On the left-hand side, you'll see financial aid. Click on that. Everything you see on this sheet will be live on that page. Links, recordings of past financial aid nights, resources abundant, okay? And that's all accessible on the website. So if you lose the sheet, don't worry. It's on the website, waiting for you. Now I'm going to get to the right-hand side of the folder. The first sheet you'll see, again, is another checklist. Remember I said mitigating stress? Organization, organization, organization. If you're a spreadsheet person, now's your time. Champion that spreadsheet, okay? I've seen some crazy spreadsheets. I worked with a student where my father is in Connecticut, a family friend. She had the spreadsheet that just went on and on and on. So much information. Gather that information. Use it how it is. If it's Post-its on a wall, if it's something like this, help yourself by being organized. This is a great little check sheet. Am I doing what I need to do in an orderly fashion? Have I started formulating a list? Okay? I tell my students the ideal magic number for lists is 5 to 7 schools. And I draw a little bell curve, right? And I say, reach is over here, safety is over here, target's in the middle of that bell, right? Least amount of applicants on either side. The reach schools, schools that you probably are not going to get into, but your number's pretty close, so what the heck? You go, you try, see what happens, okay? Safety schools on the other end, right? 1 or 2 applications for either one of these. Safety schools where my numbers far exceed what they normally take, okay? School's actually a school I'd like to attend for 4 years, not something that I don't want to attend. I have to tell you guys, this year we saw wacky results. Just things that just didn't make sense. A student get into MIT and Yale and got denied from everywhere else. Like what? Schools that were much lower than either one of those schools. Just didn't make sense. They probably took a look at her. They got so many applicants. This student is never attending here. Let's deny it. Okay? So students, when you get those results back, understand that that result, whatever you get in that letter, if it's a deferment, it's a rejection, that is not about you. That is about them. Okay? You will find an institution that makes sense for you. There's a lot of them out there. I've had students that have been completely waitlisted across the board. We're still sending stuff in June. Hey, don't forget about me. Just 2 years ago, waitlisted to every single school, which was agonizing. We wrote a nice letter to Elon. I called. got in. She's going to graduate, I think, right now, or has graduated. Loved the school, loved it. It was perfect. The universe made it happen. Okay? So as you go through this process, you get a rejection letter. That's them, not you. Okay? Senior feedback forms. So I talked about recommendations, right? Those are 2 teachers, a counselor, maybe a coach for another recommender. Student feedback forms. These forms should be given to folks that are not writing a recommendation. Okay? These are, I'm an Italian family, so my Uncle Louie, or my other Uncle Louie, or my other Uncle Louie, they all love me. I've given them all one of these, right? Why? Because I'm now going to give this back to the counselor. The counselor's going to have all this information from people and things and stories and parts that I never would have gotten had I just spoken to the student. A job supervisor, a coach, someone that isn't writing you a recommendation, but maybe has something to offer so that the counselor can include that in their letter. The more information you give that counselor, the deeper the letter and the more robust. We're trying to paint a 3D picture of your student with information. The more we have, the better that picture is. Senior feedback forms. It's a checklist and a little bit of writing on the back. Some people even attach letters, okay? Maybe it's a librarian that you had a relationship with or something that was informative in your life, a mentor. Someone that could give that counselor a little bit more information. Student brag sheets. I love living in Maine for many reasons. One of them is I really appreciate when people are humble. Kind of just understanding their own personal space, and I don't even put my stuff on other people. Why? Because I grew up in New York and everyone puts their stuff on everyone else and everyone beats their chest, right? It's part of how we grow up there, all right? Now is not the time to be humble, guys, okay? No more Mr. Nice Guy. Now it's all about, look what I did. Now's the time to pat yourself on the back, the brag sheet. I want you to brag. I want you to tell me about everything you did in high school. I don't want to hear about 8th grade, I don't want to hear about 7th grade, I don't want to hear about that spelling bee you won in 5th grade. That's great, that's awesome, good for you. I don't want to hear about it. Neither do the colleges. If it happened in high school, tell me. I can't tell you how many times I've had like a whole hum kind of senior interview. Maybe that senior isn't really a chatty kind of person. They're not giving me a whole lot in that interview. I get the student brag sheet back, and there's all this information. I'm like, holy cow! Now I can use all this stuff. Awards, a horse competition that they won, or something else that has nothing to do with school, but is really important to the student. I want to make sure that gets into the letter. Student brag sheets. Well, parents, here's your chance. Okay? Tell us how great your kid is. Tell us about all the awesome things they did in high school. Okay? If you need to, attach a letter, right? I get 5-page letters. That's awesome. Tell me. I want to hear all about it. Let me sort through all that information. Don't hold back. Brag about your student. I've already talked about Teacher X, the transcript request form. So in years past, we asked you to fill this out regardless if it was a Common App school or not. Ms. Dowd, in her quest for efficiency, said, hey, Marks, come here, look at this. We don't need to do this anymore. We've got all that information. Common App lets us see all that. We have an internal tracker that we pump that information into, so we have an internal list. What this is now for is for schools that are non-Common App. All right? They may have their own portal. Georgetown has its own portal. Why? Because of demonstrated interest. Okay? This is kind of Georgetown's thing. They're like, well, we're not too good for Common App, but we are too good for Common App. We want to see that you're really invested in Georgetown, so we have our own portal. You've got to find it, you've got to do it, you've got to spend all that effort. Show us that you want to come here. I think Gordon College is all paper pen. okay? You need to give us addresses and deadlines. This is what that's for, okay? Can this change at any moment? Yes. Just come into the office, see Ms. Dowd, Ms. Hoppin, let them know, hey, my transcript request list for non-Common App schools has changed. I've added these 2 schools. Thank you very much. Okay? They'll have you fill it out, and off it goes into your college folder. Applying to college. Parents, here's your homework. Encourage and support. I'm going to say that again. Encourage and support. It's a heck of a process. It's scary. It's amazingly vulnerable process for students to bear themselves through this. Am I going to get in? Is my worth valued, right, by some institution? They're going to get letters that break their hearts. Encourage and support. Can't say it enough. Work with your students. Coach them up. Support them. Be there to prop them up when they fall down. Okay? Make sure your student-parent responsibilities have been clearly defined. Boundaries. We talk a lot about boundaries in counseling. They're healthy. Okay? Here's my boundary. Okay? An example being emails. It is my recommendation that you start a specific Google account for the college application process. All right? They're free, doesn't cost anything. If you want Yahoo, I don't even know if Yahoo still exists. Okay? Whatever it may be, start a college application email. Why? Because then you'll have access to it, parents, and students, you'll have access to it, and there's no conflict about give me your password to your email account. Okay? When you want to check in on that account and see if things have been filed, or has there been any notice about the portal, or your acceptance, whatever it may be, all I have to do is log into that Gmail account. It's both of our accounts. We both have passwords and logins. Done. If that's not a thing for you and you want to use your school account, that's fine. Use your school account, okay? Hopefully students, you're not having anything going to that school account that mom and dad shouldn't see. Okay, so that's an easy access point as well. But understand, again, this is a process that's stress-laden. Make sure you understand that there are certain boundaries. Okay? One being that your student should be filling out their applications, not you, parents. Okay? Their process, they will be that much more invested, be that much more motivated if they are doing it. If you do it for them, we know where that goes. Okay? Make sure they're doing it. It's a boundary. Help them, but understand, hey, kiddo, this is your process. You need to do this. I'm going to sit right by you, but you need to do this. Complete your brag sheet. Common App, demographic. If you need any help with Common App, come ask us. Help your students. There's a tremendous part of the addresses, all this kind of stuff that needs to be pumped in there. Have that difficult conversation about financial aid and finances. Okay, I'll use an example for me. Got into BU, my father's alma mater. I was stoked. I went to my parents and said, hey, I got into BU. This is back in the day when you got letters, no emails. And they're like, great, you're not going there. It's too expensive. What? Right, so I had to shift. We never had that conversation. I was heartbroken. But there was a reality there that we hadn't talked about. Now, thankfully, I got a scholarship. I was able to attend a much better university, Northeastern University, and had a great experience. But that is an important conversation. Have it. It's not going to be fun, but have it. Scholarship research, we'll do a ton of that stuff for you around white folder. You can't start looking for that stuff right now. There's a ton of free money out there. Celebrate the successes, support the disappointments. Encouragement and support. What we'll do, we'll send your official transcript, profile, confidential letter rec, final transcript, and Common App stuff. Financial aid. Like I said, the letter's in the file. There's a part on the website. Famed Maine. Great organization. Everything they do is free. Everything they do is free. Everything they do is free. You can literally call them up and file the FAFSA with them on the phone, walking you through the steps. They have webinars, they have classes, they have videos, they have a tremendous amount of tools. There's 3 publications right there that I suggest all of you take one when you leave, please. All right? They have toolkits. There's a ton of stuff in there. Okay? Stay on top of your financials. A little bit about scholarships and the difference here, right? We'll go into this with White Folder. National scholarships get a tremendous amount of applications, right? These are your, McDonald's scholarship, Taco Bell scholarship, Exxon, whatever it may be, national scholarships, okay? They are lucrative, but just everyone in the country is applying. A lot of kids in this country, all right? National. College or universities, these are typically, you'll see Merit Aid. Okay, Merit Aid is used by universities to entice your student to go to that school. If you're advantageous in your application process, you may be able to walk yourself into some Merit Aid. How do I do that? Well, go west. Get out of New England. Don't apply to schools in Boston. Okay, if you do, understand that you should diversify your list. Boston is the #1 college location in the world. In the world. It just becomes a numbers game, guys. 100,000 applicants to Northeastern University. Go west. Look at schools in Ohio, Iowa, St. Paul, Minnesota. There's great schools out there. And you're coming from Maine. So what they'll do is, hey, if you come to us, we're going to give you 20 grand. It's Merit Aid. They're trying to entice you to come. And if you've been strategic around your process and apply to a school that maybe your numbers are a little bit better than what they typically get, they're really interested in you, that Merit Aid may be substantial. Okay, play the game a little bit here. Be strategic. If you can get a scholarship for athletics, great. We have a couple of, I think, a healthy number of students out of the senior class this year that are getting financial aid through scholarships. Oh, okay, 10 minutes. Somebody's gonna come get me. All right, leadership stuff, other scholarships that are out there, academic excellence, again, Merit Aid, things of that sort. And those are university based. When you get your letter of acceptance, okay, you will get an award letter. It may not come at the same time. It may come at a later date. That award letter is going to tell you what monies you've gotten. Okay? Hopefully you've filed your FAFSA on or before, after October 1 of next fall. Okay? Because the earlier you file, the more money you will be able to tap into. The later you file, November 1, December 1, January 1, that pot keeps on shrinking. Okay? So you filed nice and early, okay? You have that money coming to you, get that award list, they'll lay it out for you. Here's what you got to Pell, here's what you got to TAP, here's your grant, here's your Merit Aid, here's the student loan. They'll sneak that right in there. When you get those award letters, pay attention. It's an itemized list with the monies on the other side. Just don't assume that the bottom number that you'll see on that, well, they're giving me 30 grand. Well, 10 of that is a loan. Understand that, okay? Be meticulous when it comes to those lists. And understand that's a part of the process. Cost and compare. So if you get multiple acceptances, you'll have multiple award letters, literally line them out and cost compare. Okay? I've had students that when they've gotten their award letters prior to, they're like, I'm definitely going to this university. They got their award letters, now I'm going to this place because they gave me a lot more money. If you see your school that you really want to go to didn't give you as much, and another school did, call up that first school's financial aid office. Leverage that in other acceptance. Hey, I got accepted to XYZ school. They're giving me 5 grand more than you gave me. I really want to go to your school. Can you sweeten the pot? Maybe. a couple grand, okay? But maybe that's all you need, all right? Cost compare. That's where you'll see the merit aid. Don't get tricked by that loan denomination in there. State or county scholarships, okay, this is local stuff in the state of Maine. The Mitchell Scholarship, that we have a Mitchell receiver this year. It's a phenomenal scholarship, boatload of money. Worthington is an example of a state scholarship because it's accessed by many different high schools in the state of Maine. That's $4,000 a year for 4 years. It's a continuous scholarship, so it's 16 grand. Only caveat, you gotta stay in the state of Maine. Now they've included all the schools in the state of Maine. They used to exclude the privates, now they are including. That's a significant amount of money, guys. Okay, so the Worthington is something you want to pay attention to when you see it. Okay? Our local in-house scholarships, we just had our scholarship meeting the other night. They're a significant amount of money. We're a very fortunate school, a very fortunate community. We, I think, approximately award $250,000 to $200,000 worth of scholarship aid a year. Okay? There's money. Apply. Okay? White folder, when you see that white folder notice come out next February, please come to that meeting. There's a ton of information that we're going to give you on that night. Next steps. I've just blown hot air at you for 55 minutes. Okay? I've inundated you with a ton of information. None of you have fallen asleep, just me. Thank you. Let it sink in. Digest it. Look at the folder. Ask questions. Phone up your counselor. Get in touch. Start this process now. A great example of something that you can do over the summer to start this process is write your essay. So you go on the Common App, you start your account. What you'll be able to do is then access the prompts for the essay. Use this summer. Write a draft. You may have already done it in English class this spring. Okay? Maybe it's an outline. Maybe it's just looking at the prompts. Okay? A lot of the prompts are what I call the before and after effect. Tell us about a time you failed something and how it changed you. Tell us about an event in your life and how it changed you. Before, after, right? There's also the awesome category of other. Just read a great article about essays saying, it was basically saying, don't write the essay one that you think we want to hear. That's the absolute wrong kind of angle on that essay. Write something that's going to stick out in our minds that is about you. Use your voice. Lend your voice to this essay. I had a student, and she was a little apprehensive about it, but she wrote about blueberries, picking blueberries with her family. I said, how Maine does that get? That's awesome. It's a great story. She finished off with a nice hook line at the end, which was really funny. Okay, so there was some humor in there, but it was essentially who she was. It wasn't about, I broke my leg skiing and I had to overcome this. There's 1,000 million essays like that. There wasn't, I failed that Latin class and it taught me this and that. There's another 1,000 essays like that, right? If you can, think outside the box a little bit and you're willing to go there with your essay, it could be a differentiator for you. University of Chicago, great school. One of their prompts a couple of years ago, I think, was, tell us about the hidden meaning of Finding Waldo. Anyone know that book, Finding Waldo, right? It's like, what does that mean? Oh my God. But you can go with that in so many different directions. It's about finding yourself in the crowd, understanding that, something special can be buried amongst many things that are just the same. It can go anywhere with that. Think that way. What's unique? What's something that's going to allow me to express my voice? Be different, differentiator. Students should plan on scheduling their senior visit with their counselor in the fall. Again, thinking about when you come back to school. And then I want to talk a little bit about early action, early decision. As I said before, schools are fighting for students more so than ever before. And this is indicated in my mind through ED. Early decision is a binding contract. You can apply to one school, get into that school, that's where you're going. It's contractual, okay? I think the numbers we saw through Slate last year was something like some schools were 40% of their incoming class were taken in early decision. Why? It's guaranteed revenue. Don't get it twisted, this is a business here. Okay? Schools are always trying to maximize their yield. The difference between the students that got accepted to the students that enrolled. In an ideal world, they get 100% yield. That never happens. Okay, even like Harvard, no one gets 100%. They'll plan for it. They'll double accept many more kids than they have beds for because they know traditionally we only yield about 50 to 60% of the students that apply and get in. Early decision locks kids in. Okay, and the tip that I saw that made me think about this was like, wait a second. They started having ED2 windows. And when? In January, when their regular admit deadline was the same day. Hold on. It's not early decision anymore. This is just about you making sure you get your money, right? I've even had students, I had a student 2-3 years ago, applied to Northeastern early decision, received a phone call from the admissions rep and said, I think you should wait until ED2. What? Really? Pulled his app, waited, applied ED2, got in. What do you know? Well, they probably looked at that ED1 window, had tiers. He was probably not in that first tier of accepted students in the ED1 window, but they anticipated he'll probably be a good table setter for ED2. They pushed him over to ED2 or expected his app in ED2, and guess what? He got in. Guaranteed money. They know. This is the kid we want, but we only can accept a certain number of ED1, so let's push him to ED2. He'll apply because we're calling him and telling him to, and he's at Northeastern, loving. Okay? It is what it is, guys. Big business, a lot of money. Early decision will not allow you sometimes to factor in your senior grades. So if you're gonna do ED1, it's a school you love, the financials make sense, and you got everything you need. Your grades from junior year, your GPA, everything's tight. Come November 1. Okay? You can use that ED2 window to get that first semester grade from senior year, beat my chest, look at the APs that I did and the great grades I got there. Okay? But really that early decision is if you're locked in. It is a nice thing, you get those decisions in December, January, you don't have to wait until March. It's a little bit of sweat off the brow, all right? You know where you're going as you head into Christmas holiday or Hanukkah, wherever it may be for your family, okay? Early action, I think, is a little bit less of a commitment and maybe more advantageous. Schools are still taking 35, even in some cases 40, 45% of their incoming class through early action. But early action is non-binding. You can apply to as many schools as you like. It's the same kind of deadline thing though. November 1, December 1. UMaine, early action is December 1. You're going to apply to UMaine, do it by that date. You have over a 2.0 GPA, you will get $2,000. Just applying early. Again, for them, it allows them to table set, understand how many kids they have, how many they need to accept from regular decision. Again, there's a whole back room there that's making these decisions, but it's advantageous to you and they incentivize you, giving you $2,000. If you gotta go, go. 7 o'clock, if any juniors that need to be recognized, see you, Addie. Congrats on whatever you're getting recognized on. All right? Early action is a great window, okay? If you want to get the process over. It's non-committal, you can apply to numerous schools. What students will do sometimes, they'll apply to ED school, then they'll apply to a bunch of schools EA, because I can do those. And if those don't work out for me, because I'm going to get all those decisions by mid-December probably, I can still apply to regular admit or ED2 window or EA2 window in January. So I kind of stall out my applications, right? So I'm not doing all 10 applications at once. Maybe I'm just doing 4 in the fall and wait to see those decisions, and then I'll do the rest if I need to. Why I say 5 to 7 applications? Each one of those applications are representing a fee, $70, $80. Okay? So if you do 10, simple math, it's a lot of money. Okay? You're almost looking at $1,000 right there in application fees. You gotta factor all these things in, guys. Keep that list condensed, be strategic. If you wanna do the early action, early decision window, maybe you just do a couple, see what the results are, and then apply regular decision if you need to. Okay, I've had many students who've done early decision, got their results back from American. I'm good. Don't need to do a single other application. Did one application. Strategic. Ask for help whenever you need it. Like I said, I've thrown a ton of information at you. You're going to process it. Questions are going to come. Book an appointment with your school counselor, students, or parents. Zoom in, do whatever you need to do, access the help you need. All this stuff, students, all these forms are on Naviance in your task window. You'll be able to access them there. If you need anything, come see Ms. Dowd at the college office, or the counseling office. We'll get you whatever you need. At this point, I want to open it up for some Q&A. Allow you guys to ask some questions.
Do the parents log into Naviance, or is that only the kids?
Parents do have a log on. My philosophy on that is I'd really like you just to sit down with your kid and do it together. Have it be mutual. Not like Big Brother is dipping into your Naviance account. Hey, when I was in your Naviance account, I saw this. Hey, that's my boundary. That's my space, right? Let's do it together. Hey, let's sit down together, sign in an Naviance, I'm gonna look at some things, and then you can have that collaborative conversation, as opposed to someone looking over the shoulder. It's just my philosophy. You do have a sign-on for it. It's a little trickier for parents. It should be on our website, where the parent information for logins for all our platforms, just so you know. Parents, if you're struggling to get into Schoology, PowerSchool, any of our platforms, go to our website. There's a parent resource there for how to log into all those platforms with YouTube videos, okay, on how to do it, okay? But tread lightly there. Boundaries, remember that boundary piece there. Ms. Curtis.
As you on the question, I just wanted unsolicited. Naviance is amazing. If you're a parent who hasn't used it, you do it with your student sitting, child sitting next to you. You do not have to look at any other site. You can even schedule a visit. You can look at what they have for financial information. You can even do a filter, so you can break it down by colleges that are this size, they're next to a, either suburban or urban. Amazing. I wish I would have found it before I did all of the other searches through various Google sites, so I can't recommend it enough.
And there's multiple facets to Naviance too. There's a whole career page, there's statistics for the Department of Labor, you can see salaries, you can see videos from people that are in fields called Road Trip Nation, interviewed by students, understanding how this person became the CEO of this company, and then, had this crazy path to get there. I think there's a tremendous amount there. Attend the Naviance night in the fall. It'll be very helpful for you, okay?
I have a question about calculating the GPA.
Sure.
And how you do that, and what the difference is between a weighted GPA and the GPAs that you look at for the colleges that help you understand acceptance.
So we disseminate only weighted GPAs. So the GPA only lives on your student's transcript, okay? Your student will get a transcript at the end of this year, okay? You go to the bottom, kind of center page, it'll say weighted GPA. The GPA is a grade point average. It's an average of all your grades. It's a little tricky though. Honors, AP classes are weighted, okay? So what you do is take the number, the grade that you received, 94, you times it, if it's an honors class, times 0.05. You get, what is it, 4.3, right? Then you add 4.3 to 94, 98.3. That's the grade that then is calculated for your GPA, okay? APs, it's 0.1, factor of 1 that you times that by, so it'll take like a 90 and turn it into a 99. That's how students will graduate with GPAs over 100. I think think our valedictorian this year has like 105 GPA. Okay, just smarty pants. It is sometimes, and this is where I tread lightly with this. You gotta understand your student. You may say, oh, it's like a piece of cake, like, oh, you should be all honors because it's gonna weight up and do all these things. Well, if that result of that grade is an 80 in an honors class, what that'll indicate to a prospective university is that student couldn't handle that rigor. While that will affect the GPA at a higher number, right, because we're timesing it with 0.5 and 0.1, the grade is still on the transcript. So the university still sees the raw grade, okay? It is much more advantageous for your student to be in a college prep class or a lower level, maybe an honors versus an AP, and get a higher grade. It looks better. It's a little bit of a thing. If you feel like it's, hey, we're gonna play this game, we're gonna go honors across the board with APs because we're gonna work that weighted average, you think it matters, we've been told by a college counselor should be in all APs, especially if we're applying to highly competitive colleges, that's your strategy, go for it. I just want you to remember there's a student on the other end of that, a human being that needs to be balanced and understand what they can handle in terms of rigor. It has to work for you, whatever it is, okay? I don't prescribe to any of those. I just prescribe to students being happy and healthy and balanced. Some students can handle 5 APs. Rock on. Some students can't. And that's okay. All right? Now, all that being said, have conversations with your college counselors. They'll advise you on that kind of stuff. Hey, look, you've got this really robust transcript, tons of APs. I think it makes sense to apply to these highly competitive colleges. Makes sense. You don't have that many APs, you have a smattering of honors, your GPA is nice and robust. Yeah, it fits into what Harvard's looking at, but understand when you compare to other students, they're gonna be in different level classes. It may not be that advantageous to you to apply to that highly competitive university that has a single-digit acceptance rate. Let's look at other schools. There's thousands more where you could be really happy and really successful, okay? Malcolm Gladwell writes a great book, David and Goliath. First chapter, talks about a student that goes to Brown, #1 in her high school, super psyched she got into Brown, like waitlisted, like fought, got in, sits in organic chemistry that first year, and is middle of the pack, lower third. Feels like she's the dumbest kid in the room. She has a 97. That's hard. She's now deflated, like, oh, I should just give up. What are you talking about? A great grade, you're at a great university. Well, in comparison to my classmates, I'm down here. But yeah, there's a lot of smart kids there. She transfers, University of Maryland, the following year, #1 in her class. With that same GPA. Or higher. It's a great job, it's a great med school, the rest is good, right? Don't fall in love with brand names. Don't think or do what you think needs to be done for your child. Research it, make sure it makes sense for your child, and then chase it, whatever it may be. More questions?
You mentioned college counselors, is there any source that you provide for that?
Yeah, Mr. Lambert just started his own. But he's not taking any Camden Hill students because he feels it's a conflict of interest. He's a really nice guy for that, but I don't, you know, if you want to use a college counselor, go for it. They charge a lot of money. Maybe I can do this as a side gig. All right? It may be more advantageous. You'll get that personalized kind of feel. You'll meet the college counselor every week for an hour or two. They'll coach you on your essay. They may have some inside tips. They go to all the seminars and webinars and all this kind of stuff. If it's worth it to you, if it makes you feel more secure in your process, go for it. Just understand they're not writing that letter of recs. Don't ignore your school counselor because we're writing that letter of rec, not them. Okay? It's just a kind of the only bugaboo in that whole process. It's like I have a private counselor, I forget all about my school counselor. And, oh, you're actually writing my rep. Yeah, I am. Great resources though. We can talk, I can give you a couple people. Michelle McElhaney, who used to be the director here, has her own private counseling organization as well. She's very strong. It's not for everyone, but it is a resource. More questions? Sure. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
You too.
I was just gonna say.
Oh, Rebecca.
Oh, that's the last. I thought you were just giving me a hug. I was like, oh, that's awesome. No, she's like, yo, I'm like an 8. I'm going to. Yeah.
I was like,
It was bothering you for some reason. I've got more of that. I know you. Sure. Right?
Yes, you're very welcome.